Now for our last session of today, I'm going to first of all invite on stage the Vice Chairman of NASSCOM and CEO, Tech Mahindra. CP Gurnani played a pivotal role in the three-year transformational journey of Mahindra Satyam and spearheaded the company's eventual merger with Tech Mahindra. An accomplished business leader with extensive experience in international business development, startups, and turnarounds, Tech Mahindra's transformation journey contributing significantly to the company's strategy and philosophy. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. CP Gurnani, Vice Chairman, NASSCOM. All right, and this is going to be an in-conversation session with a multifaceted personality who has studied modern history in Balliol College, Oxford. She's earned a master's degree in international relations from the London School of Economics and Political Science. And she's worked in a leading bank and then the Ford Foundation, and is also an acclaimed actress. I'm going to hand over to Mr. Gurnani to introduce our guest today.
No, is she coming and then I introduce her?
She's here.
No, she's at the back, this thing. So that's why I said there. Okay. क्या करें? There she
Hello,
is.
sorry.
Guys, give Soha Ali Khan a big round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you very
Come
much.
on in. So Soha, you on the other end.
On this side?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people.
All right, Soha. You have a lot of technologists wondering, what a young lady like you
Is doing in a place like this.
is doing at a place like this. And more importantly, somebody who went to Oxford, who went to London School of Economics, and last heard you were headed towards investment banking, and she was a banker, and most of these guys wanted to make sales calls on you. And how did the investment banking lose you, and how did you end up in the film industry? So, guys, this is just going to be a conversation. I'll ask a few questions that I've been wanting to ask. And once I run out of questions, you guys start asking the question. We have Soha captive with us for the next 1 hour. And
I thought it was half an hour.
yeah, all right. We can start negotiating right away. And you guys need to decide. The questions can be about her mother, for people of my generation who know her better, or would rather know her better, or would want to know her better. And Raji, you were there in Pataudi when we had gone for an offsite. Anyway, we'll come to your house in Pataudi also in a minute.
Ji.
And so again, guys, many people got to know her with Rang De Basanti. Many people got to know her as Saf's sister. Many people got to know her as Sharmila's daughter. Many people got to know her as Tiger Pataudi's daughter. But the reality is she has come on her own. So guys, let's again welcome Soha Ali Khan.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So Soha, people when they describe India, they describe as ABC, astrology, Bollywood and cricket. At least you are a product of Bollywood and cricket. And last heard, A in your case also stood for animal welfare.
Oh, yes. And also, actually, Soha means a star in Arabic.
Oh, yeah, it does.
So that's astrological
right.
as well. But yes, we are animal lovers, of course. And yes, I am a product of true passion between Bollywood and cricket, I have to say. And it's wonderful. I think that a huge part of my identity is, of course, by sheer luck of having been born into a family. But I think that I would like to clear up some preconceptions. I think when you come from a family of superstars, people, as human beings, we tend to judge and we tend to label and we tend to have a lot of preconceptions. And most of the people who meet me usually say after a little chat with me that, oh, we never expected you to be so down to earth, which leads me to believe that they have an idea, perhaps, that there'll be an attitude problem, or that I had an upbringing that was, a silver spoon in the mouth and all of that. And I have to say that this concept of, being from a royal family, for example, I think that maybe you have it wrong. Because, being from a royal family doesn't mean you have lots of cash at all. I'm sad to say. So we have, a certain amount of social status, and my brother was born a prince in 1970. I was born in 1988.
Yeah, we believe you.
1988, of course. So I'm technically not a princess. I wish I was, but so we're all equal under the Constitution. We certainly don't have any money at all. If I did, I would invest it in a startup.
Oh, is it? Okay. So I can only relate to only one part. I don't know whether it is money or not. The royal family of Pataudi and Sharmila, they own a princely estate in a village called Pataudi, which is off Delhi. And some of us had gone there for an offsite. And those 3 days, while we had our offsite, I can only tell you is that the biggest terror in that house was a lady called Sharmila.
I can imagine.
Why she won't allow us to play on our billiard table, that some of us get drunk and spoil our felt. She would be switching off lights every time we pass through a room. So, so my only question about this is that was she being tough on us, or was she tough on you also?
She is a strong woman, and she was brought up with certain values, and I think that's why she got on with Abba as well. Of course, we come from a position of a certain amount of financial security, but I think what was impressed on us was always that we should never take your position today for granted, because things change. And my father certainly saw a lot of change in his life. He went from literally being the Nawab of Pataudi to being Mr. Khan. And princely titles went, and land ceiling acts came about, and from losing his father at the age of 11 to losing his eye at the age of 19 to losing land and lots of things, he took all of that in his stride. And that's perhaps why he always taught us, of course, to value money. It was difficult to get anything from him. To take the car out, for example, if I wanted to see a friend, that was only allowed once in the day, otherwise it was a waste of petrol. We had, all of us, of course, in those days had landlines, and we used to dial, 1, 2, 3, like that. And at night when we went to sleep, he would put a lock on the phone. So we couldn't make phone calls when he went to sleep, which was very early. So I thought that, we were in some serious financial trouble, but that wasn't the case. He was just always very conscious of not to splurge, not to take things for granted. Amma, of course, was very much the same. We had Post-it notes on all the doors saying, remember to turn the lights off. I remember that. And I think now, as a homeowner myself, I value that because now I know what are the things that suck electricity, not to leave the geyser on for too long, the microwave, we know these things.
I mean, so I can only say is that now this made for each other has a new meaning. Right?
It's true. I think you have to have a certain kind of value system in common, but then they are very different as people. And I think I've inherited, sort of balanced temperament for both of them. But a lot to learn. Of course, both of them superstars in their chosen professions, it can be difficult as a child. Then your brother, of course, goes on to become a superstar as well. And yet, no pressure from them. They could have put a lot of pressure on us to also want to succeed and become superstars, or academic successes, like a lot of parents, especially in India, drive. There's a lot of drive for their children to achieve. So I'm thankful that they were not, such hard taskmasters in that department. And also coming from creative fields, it wasn't as if we had to then grow up to become, a particular engineer, lawyer, doctor. We were able to explore and be creative about our choices as well.
Now, tell me, you talked about your growing up. Was growing up with Saif, was he very protective? Was he a brat? Or, did he give you a tough time or you gave him a tough time? Share some of your anecdotes of your childhood.
I get very nervous when people ask me about members of my family because they're all so well known and I don't want to say things that they wouldn't want me to say. But I can say that given a choice between him being protective and a brat, I'm leaning towards the brat, I have to say. We have a sister between us. She's sort of a little secret that not everybody knows. I have an elder sister as well. She's very camera shy. And he took out most of his brattiness on her because I was too small. There's about 10 years between us. So he was scared to mess with me. But for example, he knew that she was terrified of the dark. So what would he do? He would tie her to a chair and leave her in the bathroom, lock her and turn the lights off, and then forget about her. So I don't think protective is an apt definition. But I like that he is a good friend now. Now that I live in Mumbai and now that we belong to a similar industry, we spend a lot of time together because when I was born, he moved to boarding school in England. When he came back, I went to study in England myself. So we never grew up under one roof. But now we spend a lot of time together. We share a similar sense of humor. We talk. Some of us, can feel like misfits in the industry as well. And there are times when you do. So we get on very well and we understand each other. We've had a similar upbringing. We share a set of parents. So there's a lot to talk about, and we're good friends.
So, and when you were talking to the audience here, you talked about a startup culture. Now, one end, we know that people here are either entrepreneurs, some of them are entrepreneur managers, but how does a film star relate to startups? I mean, is it only money? Because you said if you had too much of money, you would have been promoting startups.
Well, yes, especially I've been advised that equity is a bit shaky at the moment. I would certainly, I personally, I don't know if I speak for everyone, when I think of a startup company, and I may be wrong because I went to the London School of Economics, but I studied politics. I didn't study economics. I don't know very much about running a successful business. But I think of startups, and the first thing I think of is, of course, a table tennis table in the office, and people wearing shorts, and a casual culture, and things like that, and it being very cool. But I also think about the fact that these are people who take risks. And they're people, of course, who have dreams, and they are happy to risk the certain for the uncertain and follow that dream. And I can certainly relate to that. And I think a lot of actors also, of course, are dreamers. And it is not a secure profession by any means. And most of those dreams may be crashed, against the rocks. And some people will survive, and of course, a few go on to, really scale the heights of success. But not everyone has that story, and especially in an industry as large as ours, you'll only see the same names cropping up again and again, endorsing products, doing big films. So it is risky, certainly. But I think if it is your dream, it's worth taking that risk. And I, having studied as much as I did, and this is my third profession now because I worked at the Ford Foundation and then I worked at Citibank as a banker. chose, of course, to give up a monthly check and that kind of financial security where the older you get, the more you get paid, unlike this industry, where the older you get, it all dries up very quickly. So I don't know. It's time to think about what happens next now, which is why I'm hoping to mingle with some of you, maybe get a job. Quite seriously.
Yeah, I mean, why didn't you think of us, mingling with us, before you married Kunal?
Yes, that's true. Unfortunately, I've never thought too much with my head. And you go with the heart. And in many ways, it's a complicated decision because not only is he an actor, and everyone, my mother told me, don't marry an actor, it'll complicate your life. And it has complicated my life. You really have to be made of tough, stuff to live with an actor, and especially when you're an actor yourself. It can get very volatile at home. And also, he's 5 years younger than me. So for some of the women over here, you can understand that as it is when you interact with men, some of them are a little immature emotionally. Perhaps. Not all of you, of course. Talking about other men out there. Nobody in this room. And then when he's actually physically 5 years younger than you, let's just say I don't need to have a child right now. There's no media here, right? I'm going to get into lots of trouble.
Yeah. So, I know you don't want to talk too much about your brother and his influence on your life, but if marrying an actor was such a challenging job, why did your brother do the same twice?
It's true. It's true. Because obviously, as I said, you go with the heart, and we all jump in head first when it comes to matters of the heart like marriage. And in fact, it's not just us. Even my grandfather, you alluded to Patodi, a small village in Haryana. And even my grandfather, who we all know as the Nawab of Patodi Senior, was very impoverished in comparison with the woman he loved, who was the Begum of Bhopal. And for him to choose to marry someone who was far, out of his league, and to impress Nawab Hamidullah Khan, who was my grandmother's father, was a challenge. But we've, I think it's a family of, slightly loony lovebirds. Sort of lovebirds. Yeah, down the years.
Good. So, I know some of you would want to know a little bit about, parts of your growing up. So tell us more about who gave you the first break. Was it your mother's influence when you got into the movies? And I know that Rang De Basanti was not your first movie.
Can it be my first movie, please? I would like it to be my first movie. I'm very unhappy with so much information being available publicly.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it wasn't. I, in fact, I signed a film called, Amol Palekar signed me when I was working at Citigroup. And I was very happy with my job, and I was very happy that I was making my parents proud because it was something that my father wanted me to do. And as any young girl can relate to, what we want to do is to make our fathers proud more than anything. So I was, reveling in that. And then I always enjoyed doing theater and acting. And, Amol Palekar, who I had a lot of respect for, said, there's this beautiful script, and would you like to do it? And I didn't tell my parents. And I quit my job. And I decided to tell them later. And then I started doing workshops on this film. And then suddenly, I got a call one day where he said, oh, I have some news. Unfortunately, Shah Rukh Khan is doing this film. So I said, that's not a bad thing. And he said, but Rani Mukherjee's also agreed to do this film. So I said, okay. And that left me out in the cold, because obviously that was a far more exciting cast for him. And then I didn't have a job. So I wasn't working at Citigroup. I hadn't signed a film. I was paying 15,000 rupees rent a month in Lokhandwala. And I hadn't told my parents. So that is my justification for my first movie, Dil Mange Mo. It happened very suddenly. There were 3 girls in the film. I didn't understand that you should be the only girl in the film. And when they asked me, which of the girls would you like to be? I, of course, at the age of 20-something, early 20s, said, I want to choose the girl who is ambitious and who chooses her job over the boy because, it's got interesting shades and, she's strong and things like that. And so I chose that character. And then when the movie came out and people said, why did you choose that role? You should have chosen Aisha Takia's role because she gets Shahid Kapoor in the end. And therefore, by definition, she's the heroine because she ends up with the hero. And I said, oh, I see, that's how it works. And now I've learned. Don't choose your job over the man. So now I understand.
Now, coming to your choice of the men.
I don't know how much research you've done on me.
That's all I've done. All these guys know. But I can tell you that I was more in love with your mother.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
I understand.
That's an honest confession.
I understand.
All right, so the men in your life. Sunny Deol.
Oh, yes.
Why the net believes that whatever that Foladi Haath
yes.
of Sunny
Dhai
Deol.
Kilo ka haath, yes.
And you ended up slapping him and you ended up hurting him.
Firstly, I have to say that was a little bit of creative license that the media must have taken because I did have to slap him in the film, but that was part of the script. Also, for those of you who don't know, this is, of course, Ghayal once again, which is in theaters at the moment. Why are you here? And it's doing very well, I have to say. So I had to, some of you may have seen Ghayal, the first part, which came out 25 years ago, when I was very small. And he's, of course, gets very angry and, against the system and corruption in the system, as all of us do. But he gets very angry. And I play his psychiatrist in this film. So it's my job when Sunny Deol gets very angry to bring him back to normal. And it is a challenging job. And sometimes it requires, although I wouldn't advocate it, I'm sure most psychiatrists don't, I had to slap him on occasion. And he's the director of the film as well. So he called me to the van and said, we're going to do this scene now, and it's going to get a little out of hand, and I'm going to react in a particular way, and I want you to control me. And if that means that you have to slap me, then don't hesitate. And at this point, I was thinking to myself that I have never slapped anybody my whole life, ever. And I don't really want Sunny Deol to be the first person that I slap. And I went around the whole set asking every assistant director if they would let me practice on him. And nobody agreed, which I thought was really, it's supposed to be teamwork and a collaborative effort. And I was left all by myself. And so, of course, I ended up slapping him, my very first slap, and my only slap to date as well. And I slapped him about 54 times.
Wow.
But only because, he was saying, Zyada karo, zor se karo, more. So I don't think, in the end I must have hurt him, but it was only because he asked me to.
Okay. And you don't have a fracture in your hand?
No, but I was a little sore, yes.
Now, we know that you married a film star. And you chose him over many men in this room. And all we're trying to now understand is that why did you choose him? Where did you meet him? Just share a bit about your life.
It's not, we met on a film set. We did a film called 99 together, where we didn't speak to each other at all because we come from very different, we have a very different upbringing. And, also films are very, you think you like someone, you spend so much time with them. It's really very intimate. You work for a year with them. You think they're your best friends. And then, of course, you move on to another film, and you have that experience all over again. I don't mean necessarily in a romantic way, but just it's very intense. So you don't trust your feelings right off. So you don't want to make friends with everyone because you can only maintain those many friendships. So we didn't really speak to each other on 99 very much. And also it was brought to my attention that he's a little bit younger than me and all of that. And so luckily, we did a film called Dhoondte Reh Jaoge immediately after that. No, it was the other way around, Dhoondte Reh Jaoge and then 99. And on 99 is when we exchanged numbers, and he's very funny, he has a good sense of humor. Also, quite athletic looking, strong shoulders, nice smile.
Yeah.
Things like that, what?
Yeah, she's describing me. Thank you.
Sorry, I got distracted.
Then she gets carried away once in a while.
Yes, absolutely. So yes, good sense of humor.
Yeah.
It took a while though. He had to woo me, and I was a bit reluctant because he's an actor and you're wary of actors. But finally, it took about 9 months, and then we've been together for 8 years. Married for 1 year, but we've been together for 8 years. Okay, so I think it qualifies, but now we're no longer a startup.
Yeah, okay. I guess it's time to open up for audience questions. The way we are trying to do it is we have appified the questions, so I'm going to request one of our colleagues to start posting the questions on the screens. While they post up the questions, you are known as a fitness freak, you're known as a yoga guru.
I'm not at all. I've been doing yoga for 4 years, and I think that some people are just naturally not very flexible, and there's certain asanas that I just can't do, but it's very good, and I recommend it to all of you. Even if the only thing that you do is to do a headstand for 2 minutes every day, not only does it give you a different perspective, of course, on the world, but it gets the blood rushing to parts of the body, that it doesn't normally go to. It wakes you up if you have trouble waking up in the morning, circulation, glowing skin, good makeup base, works on the insides as well. It drains the kidneys and, whatever you need to do, balances the hormones. And I also like playing badminton. I don't think I'm a fitness freak, really. But, these are natural, by the way. These triceps, I don't do any upper body exercise. I think it's genetic. I think it must have some athletic genes. Somebody must be a sportsman in my family.
Yeah. We also heard about that.
Yes.
So, are we waiting for the questions? So tell us, while we wait for the questions, you and Kunal have made public appeal, or you have shared your love for animals.
Yes.
What is driving you, and do you think we need so many stray dogs on the streets?
What is driving me is this very sight of seeing so many stray dogs and kittens. I have to say, I'm a little partial towards the dogs, but the kittens as well. I'll keep referring to the dogs. We have, of course, had many pets growing up and living on a farm and all of that. But I think the fact that they're voiceless, also that they can't really speak for themselves, that they're helpless, and that they're essentially very loving. And for some reason, I've seen some of them being really badly treated. And I don't understand, of course. I know that human beings can be very cruel, but it still, it still phases me to see people being cruel to animals and children and anybody who can't protect themselves. So there's an organization called World for All, and we're patrons of that. And we, of course, apart from being involved financially, we have adopted about 6 dogs now, which is too many, I think, but we have lots of dogs in both Mumbai and Delhi, and we've got 4 dogs in Patodi now. And you give them a home and you look after them, and of course the idea is not to have any dogs on the street, which of course then means you have to do things like vaccinations, but that is the answer at the end of the day. And we're doing our best, but it's a drop in the bucket at the moment.
Mm-hmm. So we do have the first question from the audience, which has come in from Kumar. You want to take any one of them first?
Well, the last one is easy. No.
Why didn't you play cricket?
I've just seen the auctions and the prices involved. And I'm worried about my geezer at home. So the last one is no. There was something about being able to live the life of a celebrity and whether that's easy or not. I think that, a lot of it is, Mumbai, of course, you see lots of people who are famous all over the place, and I think that we're not as star-struck perhaps as certain parts. Of course, when you go to the interiors, it can be difficult, and it is a choice that you make when you embrace a life like this, to give up a certain amount of anonymity, which of course then you're exposed to the social media as well. It can be frustrating, but I think now the media often, they make so many mistakes that they've sort of perhaps made it easier for us, because you can always take it with a pinch of salt and say that all news is tabloid journalism and this image is morphed and it's not true. So it works in both ways. And I think it's a bit of an attitude. If you go out with, a bunch of bouncers and security guards, then you perhaps draw more attention to yourself than if you were just to go out as yourself. So I think it's up to you how you choose to lead your life. To answer that question. There are lots of questions.
There's somebody wants you to buy an IPL team.
Yes, I already answered that.
Yeah, you did? Okay.
Yes. Failures are obviously always learning opportunities. And I think that my first review, Dil Mange Mo Again, was that she looks like her mother, but she acts like her father, which was my father thought it was very strange because he thought at the time he was a very good actor, but obviously other people didn't. And it was public, a public failure, which was difficult because sometimes you get a report card, but it's not like the world reads it in a newspaper. So I didn't leave the house for 2 weeks because I've always been very good at everything that I did. So it was shocking for me to suddenly fail. But then you realize that these are, that you can't please everyone, and it's one reviewer's opinion, of course. And then the other thing is that there will, of course, be obstacles along the way. And if you truly, truly want to do something, you must continue. And also when it comes to measuring your success, that surely can't be measured by other people's achievements. You have to measure your success by what you wanted to do yourself. And so even now, today, I may not be certainly at the top of my game by any means, but in comparison to what I wanted to do when I set out to be an actor, I have to say that I'm very happy with the opportunities that I have. So I think it can be sometimes frustrating to compare yourself to other people. Again, source of inspiration being my father, because what bigger obstacle can there be than for a professional sportsman to lose his eye at the age of 20 and then to go on and play, in sort of international level cricket after that for the next 10, 15 years. So I think that if you really do have a dream, you must pursue it.
Good. There's still a lot of questions about when are you joining politics? It says politics at LSE, but
yes.
I thought I'll improvise it.
I actually studied international relations, but I always say politics because when I say international relations, the media always quotes it as international relationships. Which means I had boyfriends from all over the world, which is not something I have a degree in. But yes, politics. But I don't know, politics is obviously a very noble profession, but it's also something that is so opposite to being an actor, which is what I'm always, of course, so many actors go on to become politicians because you already have people who are voting for you if you're popular. But, as an actor, you're not accountable to anyone. You can break the law, not the law, the rules. You can break rules, not the law. You can, flout social norms because you're an actor and that's what you're meant to do. You're supposed to, be at the cutting edge of things. And then, of course, as a politician, you have to abide by those rules. So I've always felt that it's a very strange thing, and I think I much prefer not having to be accountable to everybody and not having to answer for all of my actions all the time, which you would have to do if you were a politician. Again,
there are questions about your movie career. People say you are very, very selective about your movies. How do you select the movies?
I think that it is difficult, of course. First, you have to choose from what you're offered, and then not all of it is very good. And then the choice is, do you continue working and do you be visible all the time? And something might work, because you can't really predict. If you could predict what's going to be a successful film, then all of us would be making only successful films. And I'm sure all of you can understand. You'd be like, I have no idea why that film is doing so well at the box office. It's a terrible film, but it's doing very well. That happens on very frequent occasions. And then small films go unnoticed. So you can't really, it's an instinctive thing. And I think luckily for me, I'm not so interested in box office success or being famous. It's more about creative satisfaction and enjoying the role and things like that. So then you just read a script if you like it, if you like your role, if you like your director, if you think the producer can make the film, if you think they can find a distributor to release the film. Those are already so many things. So if you can tick all of those boxes, then you just jump in.
I'd love this question that only Soha can answer. What all technologies do you think have a sound future? I knew that she is born astrologer, and she gets it right with the men, movies,
Absolutely.
And technology.
Absolutely. But this
right?
is what always, because I think because we interact so much with the media, wherever you go, you have to be, like the budget is coming up now, you have to know what your opinion on the budget is. God forbid you're on your way to somewhere and you don't have network and some important event takes place or somebody slaps somebody and you have to have an answer for everything. So this is, of course, the curse of being in the limelight is that you must have answers to everything, and then you become a jack of all trades, and it's also exciting because the most exciting thing about being an actor is all the ancillary things that you do. You learn horse riding and sword fighting and all forms of dance and things like that, and you have an interesting life. I'm fully avoiding the technology question, as you can see.
No, you're doing well. You're doing very, very well. So, just for anecdotal, the time when your mom was active in films and the time now, has the film industry changed from, and what are the most impactful changes that have happened?
I would say, it's a little bit of both. You sort of take 2 steps forward, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. When my mother was in films, it was in the 60s and 70s. They say the 50s was a golden age of Indian cinema. You had roles and Indian sort of female actors who are so well known and they helmed the project, whether it was Wahida Rehman in progressive roles like Guide or Meena Kumari, and people went to the cinema to see them. And they say today perhaps women are in commercial mainstream films can be relegated to roles of accessories and glamour dolls and things like that. Of course, that is not always true, and what is lovely today is that you can make all kinds of movies on all kinds of budgets for all kinds of audiences. I can make a movie on my smartphone and I can put it on the internet and there can be an audience for that. It doesn't cost that much money to make a film also now. You don't hear the camera whir anymore and you don't run out of reel, and so it's a lot cheaper as well. Digital content can be made. So a lot has changed. What I feel creatively, writing perhaps is not as good as it was. Lyrics certainly, some contemporary rap songs, lyrics are a little strange, and could be better. We have also, when it comes to songs, for example, in the 50s and 60s, you'd listen to a 6 or 5.5, 6-minute song. Now, if it's 1 minute, people have already lost interest. You go to a nightclub, I don't know if any of you, I'm sure you do. In 45 or like 30 seconds, the song changes because, people want whatever's next. So, attention spans are a lot less. But I feel that roles, I'd like to think as an optimist that things are getting better. It's certainly a far more respectable profession today than it was in my mother's time. Now, actors, female actors, Priyanka Chopra is a role model, someone you would want to be. And people say that they want to grow up to be an actor. In my mother's time, of course, it was a questionable profession still. So I would say that it's changing for the better.
I guess we're coming towards an end. Is there anything that you would talk about, all the language skills that you have, and how did you compare yourself you've done a few regional movies, you've done the traditional Bollywood movies, and what is the difference between the regional, I don't know whether they're called Tollywoods or Bollywoods or...
Those all sorts.
Yeah.
I've done 2 Bengali films, I've done some Hindi films, and I've done a couple of international productions. Of course, the experience of working on any film is different, depending on who you're working with and who the director is and who your co-actors are. But what is lovely about the film industry, firstly, as a whole, is that it really makes you aware of your country. You get to travel to parts of the country that you ordinarily might not. Go to interiors, you stay in all sorts of places, you interact with people, and also get to play people that sometimes you wouldn't normally come across. And I think it also is a great example of diversity, because when you look at all the people involved in a film, I don't know if you sit and you wait till the end credits roll, probably not. But when you watch the end credits, you'll see that there are people from all over the country and sometimes even globally who are associated with that film. And it's really a very emotive experience to sit and see that. And also to see the success stories of people from all backgrounds and how accepting the film industry has been of that. So I think it's a wonderful profession to be a part of. And again, especially when we think about a country like India, And there's so much inequality and so much conflict as well. I think that when it comes to films, it is really, it reminds me more and more of the things that unify our country as opposed to the things that divide the country. When we all watch a film in our different states and different regions, and we laugh at the same time, and we cry at the same time, and we get bored at the same time, we're reminded of all the things that tie us together as Indians, and then not of the things that separate us. So I think that's what I love about, whether it's regional cinema or Hindi cinema, whatever it is, I think it's really a fantastic place to work.
All right. All good things have to come to an end, and now we at least know that the loss of Citibank was for our benefit. That clearly, LSE may have trained her in international relationships, right? But
politics, just say politics.
But anyway, thank you, Soha, for being with us. This has been a great chat, and thank you guys for...
Thank you for not falling asleep.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So, Gurnani, if I could request you to present Soha with a memento.
All right, Soha. There are thousands of pictures, but this one you'll treasure it more because it is with me.
You're not in this picture, actually.
I'll get you one. All right,
thank you so much. Thank you. It's been a pleasure being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Of course.
All right. But I thought